one win each. Two different surfaces. Zero grass court history between them. Today that changes. 6 a.m., 3 days before this match. Eala is at the practice courts, alone, hitting serves into an empty service box with nobody watching. Not a warm-up, a ritual. Every tournament, before the crowds, before the noise, before anyone else on the grounds is awake. Just her, the ball, and a corner of grass she's trying to make feel like home. There's a reason players build rituals like this. Grass is the strangest surface in the sport, the one that punishes anyone who treats it like clay or hard court with a different color underfoot. The bounce is lower, the ball skids instead of sitting up, and the grass itself changes shape and speed over the course of 2 weeks as it wears down. Players who show up unprepared for that shift get exposed fast. Players who show up early, who put in the quiet hours before anyone's watching, tend to be the ones still standing in the second week. By 1:30 this afternoon, that same corner of grass will hold 15,000 people, most of them screaming her name. Center court doesn't do loud. It never has. This is a place built on hushed breath and polite applause, on rules of etiquette older than television itself. The most controlled room in tennis. And it's about to lose control. Because when Eala walks out today, she brings a country with her. Flags, chants, a kind of noise this lawn was never built to hold. Across the net stands the defending champion's 6 Grand Slam titles. A Rursum built on suffocating consistency, walking into a version of her own house that no longer sounds like home. 2 nights ago, Eala was 1 set from elimination against Maya Joint, the same player who had just beaten Serena Williams and looked untouchable doing it. Eala dropped the first set 6-3. The story was writing itself. Promising run, respectable exit. Then something reset. The errors stopped. She took the second set 6-2, then delivered the set that shouldn't exist against a player playing that well 6-0. A bagel against someone who dethroned a legend 48 hours earlier. Maya Joint wasn't nervous walking into that match. She was playing with house money, looking like she belonged at the top of the sport. Eala didn't just slow her down, she erased her. There was history buried in that scoreline. 11 months earlier, at Eastbourne, this exact matchup went the other way. Eala 1 point from her first tour title. Twice, losing it in a deciding tiebreak she still hasn't fully watched back. 2 championship points, gone. This time, she didn't just win it back. She erased it. That's the part that gets lost in a highlight reel. The redemption wasn't just about winning a match. It was about proving to herself that the version of her that froze at Eastbourne wasn't the only version that existed. Tennis players talk about matches like that as scar tissue, the ones that stay with you long after the scoreline fades. Erasing one doesn't happen by accident. 11-3 on grass this season. Her best surface, arriving right on time, not clay, where the ball sits up and rewards patience, not hard courts, where power does the work. Grass punishes hesitation and rewards early contact. It turns a match into a series of split-second decisions. That's the Eala walking out today. Swiatek's version is more complicated. This is a woman who won last year's final 6-0. 6-0, one of only 2 players in the Open era, man or woman, to win a slam final without dropping a game. An entire final. 12 games. 0 of them went to her opponent. She rebuilt her forehand mechanics to survive grass, shortened the backswing, changed her footwork, then dominated the tournament that was supposed to be her weakness. That was 2025. 2026 hasn't been kind. A coaching change after Roland Garros. Results that didn't follow. She needed 3 sets just to get past her first-round opponent here, dropping a set she probably shouldn't have, and the press conference afterward was raw. Uncertain. Not the language of a 6-time major champion. There's a version of dominance that becomes its own trap. Win a final 6-0, 6-0, and the following year's expectation isn't win, it's prove that wasn't a fluke, and prove it bigger. That gap between standard and reality has been on full display all season. It's worth sitting with how strange that sentence is. A 6-time major champion, one of the most dominant players of her generation. walking into a third-round match as the one under more pressure to perform. That's what happens when the bar gets set at perfection. Anything less than a repeat of history reads like decline, even when it isn't. Her second-round match was cleaner 70 minutes, straight sets. But cleaner isn't the same as convincing. A dominant scoreline against a lesser opponent tells you very little about how someone holds up against real pressure, real crowd noise. Someone who's already beaten her once. She's still dangerous. She's always been dangerous. The question is which version shows up when the pressure spikes today, the one who dismantled a final 6-0, or the one who looked shaken in a press room 48 hours ago. Here's the twist. That rocky season is exactly why this match matters. If Swiatek were bulletproof right now, there'd be no conversation, just a champion cruising past a promising junior. A wobble at the top of the sport doesn't make her irrelevant. It makes her the most watchable version of herself in years. Cracks are more interesting than perfection. The setback didn't diminish her stakes, it multiplied them. In the Philippines, this isn't a third-round tennis match, it's a national holiday. Eala is the first Filipina, man or woman, to ever reach this round at a Grand Slam in the Open era. An entire nation watching a moment happen that has never happened before. Together, in real time. Think about what that actually looks like on the ground. Bars opening early. Offices with one eye on a stream in the corner of a screen. A time difference that turns afternoon tennis in London into the middle of the night back home. And people staying up anyway. Because some moments are worth losing sleep over. That's not manufactured hype, that's what happens when a country has waited generations for a name like this to show up on a stage like this. That's the part that travels past tennis entirely. The ache of being overlooked, then forcing the world to watch anyway. You don't need to know a forehand from a backhand to feel that. Swiatek's side reaches people too, the loneliness of being the one everyone expects to win. Every time. With no room to be human about it. When you lose, it's a crisis. When you win, it was expected. No version of the outcome feels like relief. There's an emotional cost to that dynamic that rarely gets discussed in the moment. Being the standard everyone measures themselves against sounds like an enviable position until every ordinary bad day gets treated as a crisis. And every deserved win gets waved off as business as usual. It's a quieter kind of pressure than the kind Eala is carrying today. But it's pressure all the same. Two athletes. Two different kinds of pressure. One net between them. Now the tennis. One win each. On two different surfaces, and neither has ever seen the other on grass. Grass strips away the patterns both players have built their games around. Swiatek's heavy topspin forehand, the shot that wins her clay court finals, gets neutralized by grass's low, fast bounce. She has to flatten it out, which puts more weight on a first serve that's hovered in the low to mid-60s percentage-wise this season. A player who leans on a dominant forehand from the baseline on clay suddenly has to find other ways to build points here. That adaptation is exactly what made her 2025 title so remarkable. She didn't just tolerate grass. She rebuilt her game around its demands and still walked away with the trophy. But rebuilding a game once doesn't mean it stays rebuilt. Mechanics that felt automatic a year ago can slip when confidence wavers. And confidence is precisely what this season has tested. Eala's flat, early ball striking game and that awkward lefty serve were built for exactly this surface. She's added net play this grass season specifically to pull Swiatek out of her comfort zone, a small adjustment that changes the geometry of every point. Takes away the rally patterns Swiatek has spent years perfecting. It's a subtle but meaningful shift. A player who's comfortable closing out points at the net doesn't need to win a rally outright. She just needs to shorten it. Every approach shot forces a decision. Pass or lob, under pressure, with less time to think than a baseline rally allows. On a surface this fast, that time compresses even further. Watch where Eala stands to return serve inside the baseline means she's not afraid. Watch how deep Swiatek's forehand lands short, and she's in trouble. Not the score. Not the highlight reel. Body language, positioning. The half-second hesitation that tells you who actually believes they belong on that court right now. There's mental math both players are doing without saying it out loud. Swiatek knows what a loss here does to a season already picked apart in the press. Eala knows what a win here does. It turns a good story into an undeniable one. Swiatek has more to lose. Eala has more to gain. In a match this close on paper, that asymmetry and pressure can matter as much as anything technical. This is Eala's ceiling match, not her floor. She's 21. This is still the first act. A win today puts her in her first Grand Slam fourth round ever. Validation of a grass season that already includes a title in Birmingham and wins over top 10 opposition in Berlin. Not isolated results. A pattern. A game that's quietly clicked into place on the one surface built for exactly what she does best. She is not the finished product. She is the rough draft of something the sport hasn't fully reckoned with yet. That's an uncomfortable thought for the rest of the tour. A 21-year-old who's already found her best surface, still adding new dimensions to her game mid-season, facing a legend on the game's biggest stage and treating it like an opportunity instead of a threat. Careers get defined by afternoons like this not because of what's already been achieved, but because of what a single result can unlock next. Two players walked into this tournament with one win each over the other, and neither has ever proven it on this grass. By tonight, that stops being true for one of them. Whoever wins the first set here probably wins the match. Both players can hit the shots. That's not in question. The question is, who trusts that ability when 15,000 people are deciding out loud who they want to see win? Expect this to go the distance, and expect the crowd noise to be the deciding factor nobody puts on the stat sheet. Nobody tracks decibels the way they track winners and unforced errors, but anyone who's watched sports long enough knows noise changes bodies. It changes footwork. It changes the split second before a serve toss. Today, that noise belongs to one player far more than the other. There's a version of this match where Swiatek's experience wins out, where 6 Grand Slam titles and a defending champion's composure override everything else, and the crowd noise becomes background rather than a factor. There's another version where the weight of that pedigree becomes the very thing that breaks first, where a shaky season finally catches up at the worst possible moment. Both versions are plausible. That's what makes this worth watching instead of predicting with certainty. Momentum against pedigree. A nation against a dynasty. Predict the score before the first ball drops, and when this becomes the match everyone's talking about, you'll know you called it first.